It's been quite a lively week already. We launched our quarterly economic survey on Monday. Maybe some of you may have seen that. If you haven't, it is on YouTube. So if you want to find out exactly what's going on in the Greater Manchester economy, and again, that's come from businesses. Our members have told us what the current economic state is. We've crunched all the numbers and come up with some ideas, and we'll move on to that in a minute with Subra. Then I'm going to have a quick session with Elliot Hall from the membership team, talking about membership packages and some of the things that he's experiencing at the present moment in time. And then Amy Swindles from our trade team is also then just going to give us a brief update on some of the work that our trade team is doing as well. So like I said, we'll do 30 minutes. With this heat, I'll probably not last much longer than that, to be quite honest. So we'll get going and get through it. And then maybe if you want to open your window or get some fresh air in, you can do. So first of all today, what I'm going to do is just introduce Subra to you. Subra's done a lot of work over the last week or so, crunching the numbers behind our quarterly economic survey. And straight away, he's finished on this call today. He's jumping on a call with British Chambers of Commerce and a series of senior civil servants down in London at the Bank of England, at BEIS and various other government departments to give them a briefing on what the wider economic picture is looking like, what businesses have asked us to pick up on as well. So Subra, I don't want to put a dampener on the mood or anything today and go into what the poor results are looking like. I think we all understand that the economy is looking quite fragile at the present moment in time, with that huge drop in demand we've seen over April. A couple of weeks ago, you mentioned on this call, and you mentioned since then about this idea about a swoosh or a tick-shaped recovery. I'm just wondering if you can just sort of explain that and why you're saying that. What evidence is there that this isn't going to drag on at the same level for months, or it's going to quickly bounce back? Why are you saying it's going to look like it does?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. So in terms of the scenarios for recovery, there were 3 or 4 different options which have been suggested, and together they form an alphabet soup. There is the V-shaped, the L-shaped, the U-shaped, and that sort of thing. But the data that we have gathered since the end of March, going through our business monitor surveys, what that has indicated is that over the last few weeks, there has been a slight uptick, as some sectors are reopening. We saw non-essential retail reopen earlier this week, some last week. And footfall in the city centre region of Manchester was the highest last week since the beginning of March. So there is certainly some demand that is returning to the shops. Some pent-up projects are being undertaken in the construction sector. Now there is, some increasing productivity there. And with the relaxation of the 2 meter rule to the 1+ meter rule, again, so hospitality sector can start to reopen at some operational capacity. So what the data shows is that, yes, there was that cliff edge towards the end of March, the beginning of April, and then there was a stabilization. But since then, there has been a slight increase in some of the key measures. What that does indicate is that you're not going to have a rapid recovery. What it does show is that there is going to be a gradual trickle up type of recovery, which will take several weeks, 3 to 4 months at least. And so the projection is that towards the end of September, we might start being in positive territory where there is, marginal growth in GM.
Okay, so it's certainly something we've got to keep our eye on. And one of the things, obviously, we've done the quarter economic survey, which is looking back over 3 months. But before that, we have the weekly business monitor. And we're going to restart that again next week, aren't we? So we can keep that steady monitor of what's actually happening in the Greater Manchester economy going forward.
That's correct. Yes. So the continued, completion of the business monitor service is going to be extremely important, because this is a projection, and every week we will constantly be able to refine it as and when the responses come in. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is to make sure that we are understanding what is happening in GM, what the business sentiment is, what the business response to the crisis is, so that we can in turn feedback to people elsewhere, both regional policy making, but also national policy making, so that they can come up with the right response measures to help businesses.
Brilliant. And that's a superb segue into saying, I know you've got to leave the call, as I said before now, because you're going doing that very job now, aren't you, with senior civil servants in London, courtesy of British Chambers of Commerce. So you know what to say. Obviously, make sure they understand properly what's going on and tell them what we need from them. So, Subra, thank you very much for that.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Bye, everyone. Do your job. Our second person that we're going to speak to today in a bit more detail. Again, it's somebody who has such a crucial role, really, in what we're doing, working on the membership team. Is Elliot Hall. Elliot, do you just want to explain a little bit about what your role is within the Chamber and the membership team?
Sure, thanks, Chris. Well, hi, everyone. So I'm Elliot. I work as part of the membership team, as Chris said. So I support prospective members in the process from finding out a little bit more about the Chamber and then helping them to navigate the process of becoming a new member.
Okay, and you're in constant contact, aren't you, with members and non-members, I suppose, as well, people from the business, the wider business community. What sort of trends are you beginning to see? Because again, we've hopefully had our finger on the pulse quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 months during the crisis. But what are things looking like now compared to where they were? What trends are you beginning to see now?
Yeah, well, as Subra mentioned, I think the relaxation of the lockdown restrictions has enabled businesses to obviously return safely to their place of work, and I think this has kick-started an increase in activity over recent weeks. We've seen some encouraging signs, as Subra mentioned, from sectors such as construction and retail, and obviously this was reflected in the results of the quarterly economic survey as well. Now, despite the absence of physical face-to-face meetings, obviously we've endeavoured to provide a platform for these sectors to share ideas and best practice in a series of virtual events and online forums. And over recent weeks, we've seen a real surge in the number of businesses attending these, upwards of 50 businesses attending on a regular basis. But we've also seen a steady increase in new members joining the Chamber in recent weeks as well, including a business, as wide-ranging as freight forwarding and outdoor advertising and sanitisation as well.
That's really good. And obviously, I would imagine a lot of businesses are also sort of contacting us and contacting you as well to say, well, how can you help us, obviously, because we need to make sure people still know we're here, because obviously a lot of businesses now are looking into this next bit of getting the business back on track again and selling things to people. So what sort of help could we give members in those cases?
Well, we've got a combination of platforms designed to promote brand awareness and key messages from the Chamber and for our members. We've got a weekly e-newsletter, The Brief, which reaches over 6,000 contacts. Now that was being sent out weekly, but that's now going out 3 times a week. Businesses can also access the Chamber's social media channels. Now that includes the likes of Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Now they provide a great opportunity really for businesses that are looking to promote their news, their views, articles to a community of, almost 50,000 individuals. Now businesses can also access the My GMCR app as well, which is a rewards platform. Provides an opportunity to drive customer engagement and member-to-member interaction. And I think that'll be really important moving forward, when restrictions are relaxed in industries such as hospitality and leisure, as we know what they're key parts of the Greater Manchester economy. And then in line with the recent shift to a more digital working environment, we've also launched a variety of low-cost enhanced packages, which will complement our existing marketing channels, but also provide some additional opportunities to shout about some of the great work coming out of the Greater Manchester community at the moment.
I think one thing we have seen over the last few months is that ability, or the need, I suppose, really is the best way to describe it, of being a little bit more flexible and agile with what we're doing. And just going back to that point around the sort of different packages and things, are they set in stone, or can members have a conversation with you and work out what's best for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, they're designed to support businesses of all shapes and sizes and across all sectors. So we can work together to create a bespoke solution, aimed at targeting a specific location or industry. And then we can alter the messaging as well to ensure that it's personal to members' brands and their business. But we can also combine a number of different opportunities as well. So they'll be able to deliver to connect with a wider audience. That could be the mixture of event sponsorship and online marketing advertising, or it could even be a direct mail shot or an online roundtable discussion. So I'd encourage anyone listening, if they want to find out a little bit more, do get in touch to discuss any requirements you might have, or even just to find out a little bit more about some of the enhanced packages. You'll be able to do so by contacting benefits@gmchamber.co.uk, or even get in touch with myself as well. And I'm on elliot.hall@gmchamber.co.uk.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Elliot. And that's really important, because again, for those of us that have been around the block a few times, I've probably mentioned this sometimes over the last few weeks, the stage that people are at now, coming out of a major economic shock, is the time of when it's really, really critical. And again, businesses just forget to advertise or forget to tell people they're actually open for business and still what they're doing. So if we can play a part in helping our members and other businesses do that, then that is something well worth doing. So Elliot, thank you very much for that. That's absolutely super. Our third slot today is on our international trade team as well, who again have been extremely busy, as we've heard from Susanna over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Today, we have Amy joining us from the international trade team. And she's going to talk in particular, just got a few questions lined up about one particular bit of international trade, really. And that's around letters of credit. We hear this sometimes, and I know Susanna's mentioned this sometimes in the past. But what is a letter of credit, and when might a business actually need to use it?
Hi everyone, thanks Chris. Yeah, I appreciate you're probably not all from an international background, so I'll give you a brief overview of what a letter of credit is. So it's a method of payment used within international trade, and basically it's where a bank's seller, the bank agrees to pay the seller on behalf of the buyer. So it's a guarantee really, and can help protect businesses against risk. We see lots of businesses coming to us when it's almost too late and they've got bad debt and they then want to chase it down, or they've been scammed. So it's a protection really to ensure that you get paid. And it can be quite complex, which is why we're here on hand to help, I guess.
And the advantages and disadvantages of it, because obviously it's very important that if you're doing any trade, and especially internationally, you want to guarantee payment, don't you, really? We're doing that, but that's an obvious advantage. But are there any disadvantages or anything else that you've come across? Because you've got a lot of experience in this particular area, haven't you?
Yeah, so I think it can be complex because you have to meet a set of terms and conditions. You have to make sure all documents are presented on time and correct. If there's things like shipping dates are missed, or there's errors within documentation, it can lead to non-payment or a bit of a battle with the bank to make sure you get paid.
Okay, and obviously more and more now we're mentioning the B word yet again, but will Brexit have any impact on this? Because it's looking likely that there's probably going to be no deal come 31st of December. What impact will that have on the particular area of trade?
Yeah, I think letters of credit aren't used as often as they were. You may see people asking for it. I think particularly this period with COVID is going to have an impact, because you'll see particularly companies, I just had a look at the risk ratings released for the countries for the start of 2020, and you'll see there's countries as Italy where they've got a lot of insolvencies. Their payment times may be things like 51 days rather than the 30 days that we expect in the UK. So I think although they're used outside of Europe and it may not have an impact, people may start to deal on letters of credit within the EU, particularly where, those countries that have been hit harder with Brexit, coronavirus, and it's led to more insolvencies. So we may see an increase there.
Okay. And what help can the Chamber give to people?
So we just recently launched a new service. So we can offer 3 levels of support for yourself, any contacts or clients you're dealing with that maybe deal with letter of credit. So we can look over a letter of credit as soon as you receive it from the bank and make sure that initially looks all good and we think you can meet the criteria. The second stage is we can actually check all the documentation is correct. So, check everything matches, pull up anything that we think may flag at the bank and lead to a non-payment, or we can actually just recently help you with the full service. So we can help you from checking the letter of credit, preparing all the documentation so you don't have to do anything, and we can even present that to the bank.
And have we seen any changes over the last few months of it getting busier or less busy, or expecting things to suddenly take off again as more businesses go back to work?
Yeah, I think we've seen a increase in inquiries coming through. We've recently had some people contact us asking for some help with that presentation to the bank. We've got a free webinar coming up, which we can circulate the links for next week on the 2nd, which is 10 a.m. to 11 a.m, which will talk in a bit more detail. We've got a number of companies already booked in that, so it's increasing the interest. So happy to circulate the link if anybody wants to join that.
Okay, that's superb. Thanks very much, Amy, for that. And again, just giving a bit more information about what we can offer as an organisation in that very interesting world of around international trade, where again, the amount of safety and uncertainty is absolutely vital if you're doing any trade. Like I said, whether that's overseas or obviously domestically as well, you need to get sure you're going to get paid, especially in these times. So thank you very much for that, Amy. I'm just going to throw it open now. Has anybody got any questions that they want to ask about anything they've heard today? I know Subra's not there, but if anybody's got any questions about the economic impact of all this or whatever it is, I'll do my very best to try and answer that. So has anybody got any questions?
Joe's got one there, Chris.
Yeah. Hi, Joe.
How you doing? Yeah, just thought
Joe.
I'd introduce myself because we've just joined the chamber this week. So,
excellent.
I'm co-founder of WiseUpNetworks.com along with my dad Graham, who you can see there. He's the slightly hairless version of me.
Are you able to socially distance from him if you're saying things like that? So.
Well, we're in different houses, thankfully. Yeah. But yes, no, we've recently launched a mentoring platform, and we're starting to create a lot of online content, high quality video and written content, which centers around business mentoring, which could be interesting to all members. And I'm just wondering what the scope is with the chamber for online collaboration in any way. Obviously, you've got your social channels, which you have your own content, and I was wondering if you kind of do work with any members to, work on content that's relevant for businesses and from business mentoring point of view.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's two sort of elements to this, and Lucy Mulligan, who's also on the call, may want to come in. We work with a range of people who are partners or patrons, and there's more official sort of a partnership in place there, where we sort of co-brand different services and things like that. Or at a sort of lower level, a little bit of what Elliot was saying there around some form of just bouncing on the communication and marketing of it. So if there's a particular piece of activity or product or service or whatever that we think other members should know about, our job, and this is the bit I'm partly responsible for in the chamber as well as doing the policy stuff, is to get that out to other people and make them aware of it as well. Lucy, do you want to come in on that? Or
yeah, definitely. I think one of the great things about the chamber is we do have kind of a core set of
Not a question, but just something to share with the group as fellow members of the Chamber of Commerce. I was fortunate enough to go on Unity Radio earlier this week for an hour's interview with a lovely chap called Lee Dinsdale.
Yeah.
That was organised through Reed, who is my account manager for the Chamber of Commerce. The angle was, my business is a recruitment company, but we're very values and people focused as opposed to sales focused. So we do a great deal with the community. And that was the angle of interest. But it was a great opportunity for me to talk about my business for an hour on live radio. Terrifying and exciting in equal parts, I have to say. Particularly when you've got a big Burnley accent like I have, so it's hard to hide. But I just wanted to put it out there that the Chamber of Commerce are supportive of raising your business profile via Unity Radio, and reach out to your own account manager if that's something of interest to you.
That's brilliant, that, Lee. Thank you very much for that. Because again, we try these things and we think they work and we hope they work and we get good feedback. But to hear it directly from somebody that's used it and benefited from it, that's absolutely brilliant. And just on that point, actually, what we're doing is the idea is every Tuesday we've got a slot, as Lee said, on Unity Radio on the Logros show. Next Tuesday they're having a hospitality special ahead of the reopening on the 4th of July. And they're looking for members from the hospitality sector to go on there and talk about what they've done, to get ready for the big reopening on the 4th of July. But obviously, if it's, any other type of business that's got a good story to tell and you can manage an hour on live radio, then that's another opportunity we can put for you. So thanks very much for that feedback, Lee. It's great to hear as somebody who's used the service, like I said, and benefited from it. So thank you very much.